I don't hear any announcements. Joys or concerns to share?
Well, I got to spend a wonderful day with my favorite cousin and my second favorite cousin yesterday.
May we get introduced to Susan Jackson?
Susan, go ahead, Susan, introduce yourself, if you will.
Fort Wayne, Indiana, and graduate of Earlham, same class as Lynn, and been looking for a meeting and fell into this one, I think. I feel very welcome.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm glad to have you.
welcome. Well, I have to say that I had the best Friday in a long time. I took a half day off and played hooky and went to opening day at Fenway Park where they had a hit fest. And final score was, I think, 13-9 or something like that. So we have seats where we can watch a pitcher's battle, but it's much more entertaining to see the ball go out. And there's a guy behind me who's being very, he calls people's name and he's shouting and telling them what to do as if professional baseball players did not know they were supposed to hit the ball. And so I asked him to explain a play to me and gave him some Cracker Jack and converted him to a friend. And it you know what? He's still yelling, but it's not so irritating.
Since we're on to sports, I'd like to raise up the Yukon women in the Final Four today.
Well, I have a joy. I found a place to live.
I didn't know you were looking.
Yes, the farm is sold. Well, it's under contract. And I'll be moving to Ohio in June, probably. So this week I go over to pick out paint colors, the flooring. They redo the insides of the place before you move in. So it is a little 2-bedroom place well, it's not so little compared to this house. It's wee little, but I'll be about just around the corner from my sister on the same street. So that's all.
What's the name of this place? What's the name of this? This is a village?
Yes, it's called Willowbrook at Delaware Run in Delaware, Ohio.
Yeah, just north of Columbus.
Yeah. Columbus was my hometown. So a creek runs through it, and the back end where I'm living is all nature preserve.
Oh,
So it's nice and quiet and paths to walk. So I'm excited, nervous and excited.
new chapter.
Yeah.
You have a moving date in target in line?
Sometime in June or late May.
Okay.
Depends on how soon it's ready and how soon the closings are here and I have to get out. So there's only one closing here that makes me leave, and that's the big house. When that one's sold, then I have 30 days to move. But I'm coordinating with the buyer to work all that out.
Well, it's been nice when we go to Sylvie's house in Indiana to know that you're just down the road a quarter mile. So we're going to miss that.
Well, I'll tell you more about who the owner's going to be later, but you might know them. So you may still be able to come down and visit the familiar environs.
I think what's happening to the farm?
Well, the rest of it's all woods and nature preserve. So it's all being preserved as that.
Good.
My son-in-law bought the woods, and a lot of the woods is going with the house, and the people who live in the little rental house are buying it. So Everything's just staying as it is pretty much, except I won't be here.
Hmm.
So, well, Lynette is going to do music for us. And
Can I say one more thing?
yes, oh, I'm sorry.
This is a prayer concern for the group that is traveling probably today to Ramallah and other places around there just as a pastoral visit to our staff and people at the school, and that includes Kelly Kellum. It also includes Manny Garcia, who's the Iowa Yearly Meeting Superintendent. Includes Max Carter's wife, Jane, who's on the board at the Ramallah School. Who else, Lynn? Do you remember some other names?
I don't know for sure. Sarah Lookabill from Western Yearly Meeting was going to go, but health issues have kept her from going. I don't know for sure who else is on the trip.
Okay, I think there are about 10 altogether. And we know that that's a risk to travel to that area. And they also will be visiting a friend's school in Beirut. Kind of just giving those people a hug while they're there. Prayers for their safety and that the love and peace of God will be felt by them while they're there.
I would like to mention that my niece that I was talking about last Sunday, she passed away later on last Sunday afternoon. That is the Greg and Jean Raymond's younger sister, my niece. And I'm sure the Raymonds and all of them could use your prayers. It's a pretty tough time. She was paraplegic for probably 20 years. She got T-boned by a gas semi about 20 years ago, and she's been under special care ever since. So kind of a blessing. She was in pretty bad shape.
I guess I wanted to share an experience we had last Sunday, sort of following God's leading. A very close friend of mine, a man we knew was terminally ill. On the way home from church, Sylvia said, "We need to stop by and see these people." And I said, "Oh, no, let me give them a call." But she didn't listen to me, and we drove right up to the house, and I started to walk up the sidewalk. And the wife stepped out the door, and she said, "Ross just died a few minutes ago."
Oh.
It was almost, so I was able to comfort her, and it was almost like God had taken Sylvia by the hand and said, "You need to go there now."
My steering wheel turned that way.
Yeah.
Well, Lynette has some music for us, and was somebody else saying something? I'm going to share screen to put up the lyrics so you all can see them. Can you see it? Barely, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, they are.
I can see it really well.
Okay. Twinette, we don't
Yeah.
hear you.
Okay, hold on just a moment. I think it's streaming through my hearing aids. Let's see, how do I do that? iPad. You're on. Can you hear me now?
We hear you.
Okay. See if that works better.
Thank you, Twinette. For a scripture reading, I'm going to do Proverbs 3, 5 through 7. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. This was not the sermon I was planning on giving, but some things happened. That sermon, that's too strong a word. This is wasn't what I was planning on sharing, but some things happened this week, and I changed direction. It's been a crazy busy week with trips and getting the house ready, and we had the final steps in the sale of the farmhouse was the home inspection, and I was just trying to power through all this stuff, holding it together. And we on Wednesday night, the kids all came over and picked out the furniture and stuff that they wanted, as remembrances. And I was just getting pretty worn out, I have to admit. And during the home inspection, the person who's buying the house was here, and I was here. And we heard a kind of yelp down the basement, and he yelled, "You better come down here." And so I thought, oh, phooey, of course. Go down there. He's got the panel off the electrical box, and he's standing in the corner, kind of shivering. And I said, what's wrong? And he goes, well, when I took this one screw out, there was a little spark, and it tripped the breaker. And so I said, well, just trip it back and see what happens, And he goes, I'm a little too nervous to do that, And as a son of an electrician, I thought I'll flip the breaker. So I did, and everything was fine. And then the buyer and I talked about that and said, she goes, has that ever happened before? I go, I've never taken the cover off. It's been on there 21 years. So I don't know what he did, but I've kept thinking about that and looked up an electrician, and the buyer goes, don't worry about it. Just don't put that particular screw back in when you put the panel back up. I said, well, think about it and let me know. So I left the cover off, and that night there was power and lightning all around. Lightning zooming and the thunder, and I was having a hard time sleeping, and all this stuff's going through my mind, and I finally fell asleep. And then about what I think is about 2:30, I woke up and I looked at my alarm clock to see what time it is, and power was out. So I chalked it up to the storms. The storms have come through. Fell back to sleep for a little while, and then generally our power, when it goes out, comes on pretty quick again. But it was still out, and I thought, it's surely not something that guy did messing with the box, is it? And I decided I'd look out the window, okay, and I checked my phone, and it was 3:00. And I looked out, there's no lights anywhere. Of course, I forget. At 3 a.m, why would lights be anywhere anyhow? So, but I couldn't get back to sleep. I laid back down, and as I'm laying there asleep, I hear the water pump kick on. And I think, now that's odd. Why is the water coming on? And how can it come on if there's no power? So I got up and I walked out into our dining room, which has these nice lights, and the pendant lights hanging down, made in California. And they're on a dimmer switch, but one has a bulb that's a little bit brighter than the others. I don't know how that happened, but the guy had not shut the dimmer switch all the way off, and so there's a light coming from so I'm thinking there's light there. So I run the switch up. Of course, it lights up. The living room lights, I test them. The kitchen lights. There's lights everywhere downstairs except my bedroom. Even the bathroom has lights. You go upstairs, there's lights all upstairs except my office. And I'm thinking, what happened? So I go down to the basement, and the breaker for my bedroom has switched off. And I just got so frustrated. I got more frustrated, and I tried to flip it back. It wouldn't take. And then I got here upstairs, and I don't have any internet because the wireless is up in my office where it is. And I'm just getting more and more frustrated and anxious. And I'm looking up failed circuit breakers, what to do, all kinds of this stuff, instead of just going, wait until morning. Finally, I fell asleep about 4, woke up at 6:30, ate breakfast, got dressed, went and unplugged everything on the circuits, went down, it still wouldn't flip. So I thought, well, the circuit's bad. I'll call my son-in-law or grandson-in-law who's coming over later to help move furniture out for his mother-in-law, Lisa. And he's a general handyman. I'll see if he'll replace the breaker. So I looked online. It was a breaker that had ground fault on it. And those are $50 a pop as opposed to the regular one, which is $8. So I was unhappy with that. And then I went back down and looked again, and the breaker right next to it was the exact same kind, 15 amp with a ground fault. So I hit the ground fault test button on that, and it flipped like it should. And then I thought, well, I'll flip it back on. Then it wouldn't come back on. And I'm like, that guy must have really messed everything up when maybe he was a very pleasant guy. I liked him, but I thought, boy, around electricity, of course, I don't mess with electricity. My dad was the electrician, and I would let him do all that. And now my son's an electrician in Japan, among his other skills. And as I stood there, I tried to breathe. And I thought, Brent, the switch didn't flip all the way to off. It's just part way. And remember what your dad did. He always flipped it all the way over and then flipped it back. Well, it worked on both of them. They've been on ever since. Nothing wrong. I don't know what caused it to break in the middle of the night, other than God telling me, and this is a very short point of all this, is that I've gotten disconnected from the power. There was power all around me. And there had been power all around me all week, and I was going on my own trying to power through all this stuff. I'd forgotten that verse in Proverbs about relying on the Lord, and he will direct your paths and make things smooth. Was making all these decisions. People were telling me they were the right decisions. I was fretting about them. I was fretting about everything. This was also the day the kids came to pick out the furniture was Nancy's and my anniversary, the first since she died. So there's all this emotion and stuff, and I'm letting all that guide me instead of taking time to stay connected with that power that is just amazing. One of the verses in the hymn that Twinette played is one that I've not really heard before, but it fits perfect. And the end of it is, be thou my soul's shelter, be thou my strong tower, O raise me heavenward, great power of my power. Great power of my power. Boy, I'd forgotten that. And when I got calm and thought about the breaker, I knew that all I had to do is take it all the way off and put it back on, because when it was partial, it wasn't connecting. And my past week has been partial. May your life not be partial. May you stay connected. May I stay connected throughout our lives to the great power of my power. Twinette has another hymn to play for us, and I'm going to share screen again so you can see those words as soon as I can. There it is. Well, I
Can you hear
shared the
me?
wrong one. Just a second.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Need to call that up and then there we go. Well, thank you, Twinette. We will now continue with more on program worship. And blessings on those who need to leave.
Nice to see everybody.
few days ago, I was working on the roof of our little camper that we have to go play around with. The most Indiana thing that we own. And I had to take an antenna off because I had purchased a new antenna for it. The old one was just not adequate, and found a good deal. And in the instructions, it said, now when you go through the roof, in which there was already a hole there for the old antenna, it said make sure that you're not going to get involved in any wiring or any electrical that might be running through the roof. And so I needed to drill a hole down through the ceiling of the camper, even though there was one up on the roof where the antenna was. For this particular one, you have a knob on the inside of the ceiling, and you have to turn it by an axle to aim at a TV antenna when you're camping. So I got the longest bit I could to go through the attic of the camper, and had Twinette come out and say, okay, now when I go through the ceiling with this very narrow, sharp bit, just yell out the window, let me know that I've pierced it, and I'm going to stop, and then I'll be able to go further. So she did, and she said, stop. It went through that ceiling instantly. And I said, that's all I need you for. And I had gone and checked for wiring and everything, and it was just insulation and very empty up there. So from underneath inside the camper, I took a wider blade, 1.5 inches, and drilled a new hole for the axle to go up to turn that antenna. Got it drilled through, everything went fine. I thought, this is great. This is easy, one of the easiest jobs I've ever done on this silly thing. And as I felt around up there to just make sure there was nothing around, lo and behold, I found a wire. Right, probably within 0.5 centimeter, maybe a centimeter away from where I had just drilled that 1.5 inch hole. And it wasn't charged. I had all the circuits off, and it's probably a speaker wire, a little DC wire. But Brent's message made me think about that if I would have cut it, if I would have drilled through it, it would have required a shrink wrap and butt end repairs, and I would have had to patch it up. And sometimes it made me think about my relationships to other people and troubles that I have sometimes with my big mouth. And that big mouth is kind of like that drill bit where I would accidentally cut a wire and open up new problems and things that have to be patched up. And it's never really the same after that. There's always a scar on the wire. And I need to listen to my inner light more, and sometimes not tap into power that doesn't need to be unleashed, and I need to keep everything just running smoothly by keeping my trap shut.
Our hearts clear. Then we'll close meeting for worship, and hope you have a good week, and I hope to see you next Sunday.
Thank you for your message.
Thank you for your message, Brent, and for your music, Twinette.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody.
Well, have a good week.
Be well.
Come back.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Susan.